Hello everyone, this is LW Gaming and welcome back to a brand new installment of Future Langrisser. Well, you might be asking me, like, why is there another installment for the same month? Well, I decided to change the way how Future Langrisser installments get published on YouTube. So now it'll just stick with the usual basis. Like, it's no longer monthly now. It's actually now it depends on whichever major update is gonna come up next. So here's the planning for the Future Langrisser series from then on and forward. Is that once the new trailer releases, the same goes to Future Langrisser installments. So I just want to like release them as close as possible because in the past few months that has been working for quite some time. But now since the trailer is released first before my installments even gets released, I decided maybe it's time for a bit of a change here. So that's what I did, based on your community polls I did earlier. And this is for December 18th, 2023. And today's date is the 13th. I decided to record this a bit early because I'm on time crunch. So yep, bear with me because there will be some mispronunciation as I never seen this collab. And speaking of collab, maybe you might be wondering when exactly is Guyver gonna come out. Well, in CN, we finally got confirmation that they're gonna be next. That's the next major update content. So Guyver is gonna come to the game later on in global, of course, but CN's getting a first. Just like you know, so there will be 3 new heroes coming from Guyver Manga Series arriving to the game, which is quite exciting. Let's take a look at who they are and let's meet them. So first, let's take a look at Sho Fukamachi. That's one of the 3 new heroes that's going to be added to the game. And his classes, both are infantry. So, yep, he's going to be somewhat like Rin or I would say Gintoki or something. But anyways, you know the idea. Both classes are the same, no matter which upgrade you go to. No matter which class tree you went to here. And factions, he's part of Protagonist, Mythical Realm, Heroes of Time. Yep, he is like Heroes of Time is actually quite normal for a lot of these crossover units because that's the faction that most of the crossovers will be part of. Well, all of them actually. All crossover units will be part of Heroes of Time, so that's actually makes sense. And then he's a banner unit, so you're gonna have to do some summons to get Sho Fukamachi on your team. The next up we got Archenfell. I'm sorry if I mispronounced it. Anyways, he's both demon class on there. And before you ask, isn't demon the worst class to have as if you're fighting against holy units? Well, yes, but for Archenfell's case, no, because his special talent effect, which basically negate that kind of disadvantage. So basically, he has a class disadvantage immunity on him. So even though he's a demon, he's not really weak against holy units because he ignores them. And then just like Sho Fukamachi, he's also on banner. So you're gonna have to summon for him. And then faction choices, he has strategic masters, Elect Legends, and Heroes of Time. And then finally, the third unit that we added to the game will be Ajinto. I think that's how you pronounce it because there's no other way of how to pronounce his name. But if I mispronounce it, I apologize. And then his class choices, he's part of infantry. Both of them are infantry. And then faction-wise, he is the Elect Legends, Mythical Realm, and Heroes of Time. And unlike the other 2 I covered earlier, this one is in fact free unit. So yep, this is the free unit we'll be getting from the event. And yep, he will be getting him for sure. So everyone should be rejoicing about at least getting one of those. But if you're planning to get all 3, that's actually up to you. All right, moving on. Let's talk about casting pattern skills. So first up, we got Light of Genesis. Her casting pattern skill increases her int by 5%. 3C Act Again can be triggered 2 tiles around an ally. Also adds +1 additional talent stacks. So you might be wondering like what is going on with Lyogenesis? Well, Lyogenesis is going to have her 3C effect with Act Again when you use a single target skill while standing with an ally. So previously, she has to stand next to an ally, but in this with this casting pattern change, she'll get that Act Again effect as long as she's within 2 tiles of apart from an ally. So like she's like within like 2 blocks, and while there's at least an ally within that range, she will have Act Again. And on top of that, she also gained an additional talent stack, which is quite nice if you say so. So yeah, basically you'll be able to do some talent stacks like you'll get those really quickly. So the next turn you should be able to attack from a further distance, which is quite awesome. Okay, next up we got Caroline. Caroline, casting is really interesting and also pretty good when it comes to mobility. Attack plus 5%. After releasing Turbo Boost, at the end of the action, the mobility of allies within the surrounding 3 blocks will be increased by 1, and this will last for 2 turns, which is pretty good to move around much easier. Like if you have Caroline casting pattern done, you're pretty much good to go. Next up, we got Matthew, the MC unit, or OC unit actually, in Langrisser M, the very first unit you have since the beginning of the game. Well, he's getting casting patterns finally, and his is basically attack and defense plus 5%. All protagonist allies in the field, and when there are other allies within 2 blocks around, attack and int increase by 10%. So you can think of this like a mini faction buff for protagonists, but this is more on the offensive focus kind of stat increase. So anybody that's like protagonist or anybody that's within his range of 2 blocks will get 10% more attack and int. So that's actually quite nice for Matthew. So yeah, this is more like a passive skill here. I mean, all these are passive, of course, but anyways, this is something that's actually pretty straightforward for Matthew, which is quite nice to have. And finally, we have Freya. Freya's casting increases all stats by 5% when obtaining Rose Parade, which is her 3C faction buff effect. If the basic defense value is greater than the magic defense, the barb effect will also be obtained, which is quite nice. But if this condition does not meet, Iron Rose Barb will be obtained instead. So yep, you'll get either one of these. So that's actually allowing her to have more fixed damage in her arsenal, which is nice. So it mostly depends on what kind of Freya you prefer. So if you want Freya to be able to deal with the range units, try not to make your defense too high. Otherwise, you won't get that range fixed damage, but bonus, I mean. But if you want to go for complete like melee defense, well, build your defense well. I'm just trying to just saying. If you're thinking of having Freya, but either way, build whichever you want on Freya. She's pretty solid. Alright, next up, let's talk about the exclusive equipment. So there are some complications when I first recorded this because I wasn't sure what does it mean when it comes to the like Tormilk's armor. But we'll get into that soon. So anyways, Tormilk's exclusive is the armor piece. HP increased by 10%. At the start of the turn, perceptual and rational, whichever is greater, will be transferred to the lowest. And the number is 1, of course. So it'll be like 1 for each time. So yeah. So if whichever's lower, it'll get transferred to the another, which is quite nice. And then when the difference between perceptual and rational is less of a difference, of course, hero damage is increased, and the maximum you can get from this is 10%. So you might be wondering, how does that work? Well, I'm gonna show you a few examples. So for example, you have buff A like a perceptual, or buff B like rational, or whichever way around. So if these two buffs are actually at the same stacks, like 2 and 2, you get the full damage bonus, which is 10%. And then for buff A, if it's like at 3, while buff B is at 1, you only get 5% damage bonus. But if all the buff stacks are just on buff A, while you don't have any buff on buff B, or any stacks I mean on buff B, you won't get any bonus damage. So in order for this to work, you're gonna have to ensure that both those buffs have the equal amount to get the full damage bonus possible. But if you weren't able to meet that condition, but yeah, other than that, you won't be doing much. But anyways, this is just something like an idea of how you can do this. Okay, moving on to the next exclusive is this one. It goes to Prezia, which I think a lot of people have used her, but mostly for bonds. But I think with this addition, this could actually make her as a usable unit. In some cases for PvP, if you prefer her to be in there. So anyways, her weapon increases her attack by 10%. Talent's Time Flux reduces one more cooldown, which is quite nice. Which means that you will get that back really quickly. Or like one more cooldown, I mean. And also the Talent's Chrono Break, which is the one that freezes time. That one would not have any cooldown. And then the damage increased by 5% for each skill that are not on cooldown. So that's actually quite nice for Prezia to have. So yeah, you may be wondering, like, Prezia is gonna be really great when it comes to like stopping the buffs from being depleted. Well, she can use it infinitely now with this weapon, which is quite nice. And also damage increased by 5% for each skill that are not on cooldown. So as long as you have a skill that is available to use, she'll get bonus damage added to her overall damage, which is quite nice. And before we end off this episode, I want to show you all what is going to be added to the cycle when it comes to banners. So anyways, alongside with that banner, there's going to be a rate up banner, a new one for Hilda and Elma. There's also going to be a new Destiny banner for Theon, Elise, and Lostum. We also have the new Tensei banner for Patsier, Julian, and Werner Dime. And then the classic Destiny banner for Elwyn, Leon, and Bernhard. So hopefully you find this video informative, and I'll see you all next time. And also, happy holidays, depending on when are you watching this. And Merry Christmas. And Happy New Year.